Morning, everybody. It's Coach Erica here, your friendly and fabulous Orange County personal trainer. Welcome to Facebook Live. I'm going to go get some chapstick while I wait to see if anybody else can join us. It's dry here in Southern California. It's dry and I'm freezing. I'm putting clothes on this time. Usually I'm taking them off, right? I don't know if we're going to have anybody on today. If not, then hopefully people can watch on our replay. We've had tons of fires here in Southern California. If you're not local, it's been a really devastating few weeks. It feels like a few weeks. Maybe it's only been a week. It's dry here. The Santa Anas are blowing. There's smoke and some kind of not healthy air even down in Orange County. So there's lots of ways you can help. If you're interested in donating, there's many organizations taking donations for people and animals. A lot of equestrian property was damaged and had to be evacuated in the Southern California fires. So lots of large animals that maybe aren't typically a concern have had to be evacuated and they need supplies for. So check your social media for legitimate organizations that need donations both for people and for animals if you're interested in helping. This week, I want to talk about atomic habits. What are they and why do you care? The reason I'm talking about atomic habits is because I'm reading this book, which is probably backwards, doesn't mirror. Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's an awesome book. James Clear, if you're interested in following him, he used to do 2 times a week. I don't know if he's doing 2 times a week now. Email blasts 2 times a week, all about habits and productivity and being a productive person in your life. I started getting his emails years ago, and he just put out a book. So I ordered it. And for a self-improvement book, it's really great. Easy to read, lots of good ideas. And so I thought we would just quickly talk about habits and why they're important. I'm only through the first couple of chapters, so we're just going to start to talk about it. And as I go through more chapters, then maybe I will share more. Or maybe I'll make you buy it yourself so you can take your own notes and learn. Okay, so his whole thing in Atomic Habits is that small habits make a really big difference. And he talks about how it's really easy to overestimate the importance of like one big moment versus all the little moments that make up your life. I've talked about Robin Sharma before. I listen to his podcast a lot in the mornings, and he always says, your day is your life in miniature. Your day is your life in miniature. So if you think about how you choose to spend every day, and those days pile on top of each other, then in turn, that's how you've spent your life, right? So your life is not necessarily made up of huge, defining, large moments. Your life is made up of all those seemingly unimportant moments that build together and create a framework and a quilt of what your life becomes. So in this book, James talks about how people just really give a lot of importance to the big things. So for example, if you are a weight loss person, I have a challenge going on for cyclists. I have very mixed feelings about challenges because it's exactly what we're talking about here. People look at a 6-week challenge or a 4-week challenge and they're like, yeah, I'm going to like just kill it for the next 4 weeks. And then I'm going to be amazing. I'm going to lose all this weight. I'm going to be happy. And then I can go back to doing exactly what I was doing before. And they don't end up finding long-term success. And it's because they're putting too much importance on that one thing, that one amazing workout or that one amazing date with your loved ones, and not the things that happen every single day. So he says that we have to stop overestimating the importance of big defining moments or one defining moment and start valuing the small improvements that we make on a daily basis. So he says, improving by just 1% in a day might not be notable. It might not even be noticeable. But in the long run, it can be much more meaningful. So here's how the math works. If you can get just 1% better each day for a year, you'll end up 37 times better than when you started. But if you get 1% worse every day for a year, you'll decline almost down to 0 in that year. And that's because habits compound themselves. He says habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. The same way that money multiplies through compound interest, the effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them. So your habits, just like compound interest, might start to go like this, then little, then little, then little, boom, up. And that's when you'll notice a change. So if you go to the gym 3 days in a row, or you run 3 days in a row, you're not going to really notice a change, right? But if you go to the gym every day for a year, by the end of that year, you will notice a huge change compared to when you start. So just making your 1% better improvement every day makes a huge 37% gain at the end of a year. But he says the same thing can happen with our bad habits or our errors. When we repeat our 1% errors day after day, replicating our poor decisions, duplicating our tiny mistakes, and then rationalizing these little excuses that we make, our small choices compound as well into really toxic results. So I want you to start thinking of how you can start to implement a 1% improvement every day instead of a 1% decline, or even a maintenance, right? It's that tiny, like almost imperceptible change. He gives a really good example of an airplane. So if you are a pilot and the pilot is flying from Los Angeles to New York City, if the pilot leaving from LAX adjusts the direction of his nose just 3.5 degrees south, he'll end up landing in Washington, D.C. instead of New York. It's such a small change at the beginning, but by the time he goes all the way across the U.S. and puts all those miles on the plane, the difference is like humongous. It's that many miles apart. And the same thing can be applied to your life. You might make that little tiny adjustment every day, and it'll end up day after day after day after you travel all your own miles, making a huge change at the end. So he says it really doesn't matter how successful or unsuccessful you are right now. What matters is whether the habits you're putting into place are putting you on the path towards success. So you should be way more concerned with what your current path is versus what your current results are, right? So if you run for 3 days straight, you should be way more worried about whether you're doing creating the habit of running than where you are right at the end of that third day, because it's not going to be where you want to be. But after a year, you will be where you want to be. So he says if you want to predict where you'll end up in life, all you have to do is follow that trajectory or that curve of your tiny gains or your tiny losses. And then you'll see how your daily choices are going to compound 1 year, 10 years, or 20 years down the line. Pretty crazy, right? So it's all those little habits that are going to get you to where you want to go. The same thing with habits that they like compound, the results compound. A lot of times, and I tell people this with weight loss all the time, a lot of times you won't see much of a change. It'll be like this, like this, like this, like this. Hi, Tori. And then all of a sudden you'll like pass this critical threshold and you'll see an increase. So people who want to lose weight, they always ask me, how long is it going to take before I see my 20-pound weight loss? Well, I say, you know what? It's not going to be quick. It might take 8, 10, 12 weeks. And generally what happens is this. Your weight is here. You're super sore. You might be retaining water, so you might even increase your weight. And then you'll like plateau. But if you keep doing the small habits that you're trying to create every single day, by the end of that 12 weeks, all of a sudden your body goes, oh, boop, and you like drop a ton of weight at once. That's oftentimes how weight loss happens. And that's what he's talking about, this critical threshold. So you might make a few small changes. And the problem is that when you make those small changes, but you don't see results right away, most people just chuck it. They're like, whatever. I've been eating well for a week or 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and I don't see any difference. So what's even the bother? Like, why do it? And then they go back to their old ways. But it's when you finally break through that plateau, he calls it the plateau of latent potential. Very fancy word. When you finally break that plateau, it'll often look like an overnight success because you'll be here, boom. But you know that you put tons of work into it behind the scenes. Tori says, that's exactly what happened to me. With your weight loss, yeah, it's really, really common. And the problem is most people stop the small habits before they get to that threshold where all of a sudden they see results. And that's where I tell people they have to be patient. And that's the hardest part because we as human beings just are not that patient anymore. So it's important to remember that all big things come from small beginnings. And the seed of every habit is just a single tiny decision. But that decision that is repeated over and over and over sprouts into a stronger and stronger habit, which will then get you to your results. So I say, for example, like eating a healthy breakfast, right? So eating a healthy breakfast is the system or the habit to get to your results. It might not seem like that big of a deal for the first 5 days. Hey, Julie, the first 5 days that you are eating a healthy breakfast. But by the 66th day, it has become a habit. It's just ingrained in who you are. It's part of your system. And all of a sudden, you are now a healthy breakfast eater, right? You identify with that. And all of a sudden, that habit has maybe created the result. So remember, you're not focusing on the results. You're focusing on the system and the habit. And that's his next point, is forget about the goals and focus on the system instead. He says goals are about the results that you want to achieve, but systems are about the processes that lead to those results. So I always use weight loss because that's typically what we're talking about here. So if your goal is a 20-pound weight loss, what if you totally ignored that? What if you totally ignored that you want to lose 20 pounds and instead you were only focused on your system? Do you think that you would still succeed? I think so. He thinks so. So basically your system is, for the next 100 days, I'm going to concentrate on having a healthy breakfast. That's it. Or for the next 100 days, I'm going to concentrate on getting 8 hours of sleep a night. Don't worry about the 20 pounds. If you're focusing on those habits that then create a system that's successful, the 20 pounds will happen on its own. And he says, what's the difference between, say, like a winning Olympian and someone who doesn't make the podium? Every Olympian wants to win a gold medal, and they're all like super talented athletes, right? I mean, these people have amazing physical potential. He says the goals have always been there, but the main difference is that some of the athletes, the ones who win, have focused on a system of continuous small improvements. And so they achieved a different outcome. Brandy, I see a helmet picture. That must be you. No, Allison, hi. You have a helmet picture. Is that a helmet picture? I can't tell. Maybe that's not. Morning. Hey, I'm talking about the new book that I'm reading. Okay, so the last part of this first few chapters that we're going to talk about is achieving goals versus a system. So, right, we're saying, don't worry about the goals, think about the system. And here's an example. So imagine you have a messy room. I often have a messy room, or a messy house, right? And if you think about how most people imagine solving that problem, you set a goal to clean it, right? My room is messy, my goal is to clean it. So you summon up the energy, you take the time to tidy it up, and you have a tidy room. But how long do you have a tidy room or a tidy house? Maybe only a day, maybe only a week. But if you don't fix the system, which is the sloppy pack rat habits you have, or not putting things away when you're finished, it's not going to change the end result over the long term. So instead of saying, I have a messy room, I want to clean it up, I'm going to tidy it up, and then it'll be good, think about the system or the habit, which is if I come home and I have something in my hand, I'm going to put it where it belongs or throw it away instead of setting it on the counter to address later. And then it becomes a pile, and then you have a messy room again. So achieving a goal only changes your life for that one moment, right? You only have a clean room for a week, or you only have lost 20 pounds for a couple of months. And then when that challenge is over, if you haven't changed the habits, your weight comes back. So in order to improve for the good, you have to solve the problem at the systems level. You have to fix the habits. And the one good thing about that is if you're having trouble, it's not you. You're not a bad person. You're not lazy. It's just that your system isn't good. So bad habits repeat themselves again and again, just like good habits do. So instead of getting down on yourself and your motivation and your ability to achieve whatever goal you have, then instead focus on the systems and making those small changes to each habit so that in the long run you have lasting results. And that's what he calls atomic habits. So atomic habits aren't just any old habit. It's a habit that's small, that is part of a larger system that gets you to your goal. So if you are a weight loss person, your atomic habits might be sleeping 8 hours a night, drinking half of your body weight in ounces every day, starting every morning with a healthy breakfast, right? So all of those are small habits that are part of a larger system that will then help you lose your 20 pounds, all right? So again, it's all about focusing not on what you want to achieve, but the habits that are going to get you there. Hey Ryan, good morning. So just to summarize everything he said in this first couple of chapters, habits are a compound interest of self-improvement. So just getting 1% better every day leads to huge results in the long run. And getting 1% worse every day leads to enormous declines at the end of a year. Habits are a double-edged sword. They can work for you or against you, which is why understanding the details of your process and which habits you do on a regular basis is essential. Small changes or atomic habits often appear to make no difference at all until you cross a threshold. So remember, just like weight loss, I said, usually you'll go like this, boom, and if you keep doing what you're doing, all of a sudden the weight will come off. Same thing with all habits. Until you reach that threshold, you might not notice that much of a change. And the problem is that most people stop before they reach the threshold. An atomic habit is a little habit that's part of a bigger system that's going to get you where you want to go. And if you want better results, forget about setting goals and focus on the system instead. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. That's a good one. I'm going to say it again. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So if you have a bad system, you get up every morning, 15 minutes late, you're running late, so you don't have time to have a healthy breakfast and you have a donut every day, then you are not going to lose your 20 pounds at the end of several months, right? So atomic habits, we're all going to work on that. Awesome book. Go get it if you can. You can order it online. My challenge for this week is to look at your systems. So think about what your goal is. Yes, think about where you're trying to get to, and then kind of put that out of your mind and write down what your habits or systems are that are important to get you to that goal. And then this week, I want you to focus on just one habit, okay? And next week, Wednesday, am I going to be here? Yes, I'll be on vacation, but next week when I check in for the 7:30 call, I will still be here, day before Thanksgiving, good time to talk about habits. We're going to report back on the one habit that we worked on addressing for this week, okay? All right, I didn't ask you guys a lot of questions this time. It was like a big lecture. Now I need a drink of water. Thank you so much for joining me again for our weekly talk. I had a great time. I'm looking at the price here. It says $699. That's not how much I paid for it. I don't think that's American dollars. So go out, make it a great day, and over the next week, work on those habits, all right? Okay, talk to you later. Bye.